Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Baldy and today we are talking about the Awake magazine. Now, back in the day, the Awake magazine used to be this beacon of spiritual truth. It used to be a bi-weekly 32-page magazine that was filled with all kinds of educational material. It was once said that if you read every Awake magazine that ever came out, it would be the equivalent of receiving a college education. But gone are those days, because instead of it being a 32-page bi-weekly, you get one per year. That's 16 pages. Now, normally, I don't really talk about the Awake magazine. They don't come off very often, obviously, but I don't really talk about it because they're kind of boring. But I noticed what the topic was for the most recent Awake magazine, and it pissed me off. So you can join me in being pissed off that they would say such ridiculous things about the topic of loneliness. An interesting topic to cover from an organization that has a long history of shunning people who have any disagreements with the leadership. So let's talk about it. Alright, so let's take this as a step-by-step progression of exactly why I think it's wholly inappropriate and kind of absurd for an organization that shuns people and just leaves them out there to figure it out on their own to be talking about what you can do about loneliness. So first off, you have to understand, and this is very, very important, Jehovah's Witnesses do not operate like normal people. If they send their kids off to school, before that kid goes to school, they are constantly pressuring them to resist Satan's world. Satan's world is literally everything and anything outside of what comes out of Watchtower. That is the only safe place. If you are in a Kingdom Hall, if you are surrounded by other Jehovah's Witnesses, if you are watching a movie or listening to music that's from Watchtower, that is all safe. That is all the happy place. But anything and anyone on the outside is considered under the direct influence of Satan and his horde of demons. So children that grow up in this organization don't get a natural social integration. They look at other kids their age, they look at their teachers, they look at anyone who's not a Jehovah's Witness as being someone who's likely going to die in the very near future because they are not a Jehovah's Witness. That is how I looked at my own grandparents who are now shunning me. My grandparents, or my grandma specifically, hadn't attended a meeting unless I was giving a talk, or, she showed up if I gave a talk at a convention or something. She would show up to that. But other than those occasions, she didn't go to meetings for 30 years. Now, I remember distinctly being so upset and so distraught, and I was trying to have a conversation about this with another person in my family. And I was just in tears and, I was inconsolable because I was so distressed and so upset that she was going to die at Armageddon. I thought that my grandma, who believes the Jehovah's Witnesses but just doesn't really like the governing body and all that rulemaking so much, I thought she was going to die very soon at Armageddon. And this is someone that is now shunning me. That is how intense, even if you claim to be a Jehovah's Witness, but you aren't sufficiently righteous, you will still be viewed as someone who's going to at Armageddon. And so this is like the mindset of a Jehovah's Witness. If you will think that about a believing Jehovah's Witness grandma that's now shunning you, what do you think sort of thoughts were going through my head about worldly people? Oh boy, they had absolutely no shot. And this creates social isolation and a very real, a very tangible, a measurable effect that it has on people. The social isolation is real. And so when you decide to leave the group and go out into Satan's world, now you are part of Satan's world. So anyone that's on the inside They can't talk to you. They can't speak to you. And because you had this fear of the world, you don't have any friends. Maybe you have people you work with, but you're not very close with them because you weren't allowed to be. Maybe you have people that you see all the time at the gym. You're not very close with them because you were never allowed to be. Maybe you have people that you see at the coffee shop or play basketball with. You don't know any of them by name. None of that. You don't really have any strong, deep connections with people on the outside of the organization. So if you decide to leave, if you say, actually, I can prove that X, Y, and Z doctrine from the Jehovah's Witnesses is not true. It's a demonstrable fact. This is wrong. They are lying. And you say, well, I don't want to be led by liars. And you leave that. It leaves you with bupkis. Nothing. The sum total of my asshole. That is what you get when you leave the organization. Now, the reason I say all of this is because to someone who has never been in that world or never had to face that choice, do I want all of my friends and family or do I want truth and freedom? If you've never experienced the pain of losing everything and everyone that you care and love at just in one day, just boop, overnight, they're all gone. If you've never experienced that, it's really hard to fully understand just how traumatizing that can be. It can really do things to your mind and send you spiraling down a vast, deep hole of depression and loneliness. And this is a direct cause. This isn't correlation. This is, in fact, causation. The only reason that people experience that is because a group of guys in New York have decided that the Bible told them to. And they have put forth this policy for, when did they start it? In the 50s or so, 56, something like that. So for the last 70 years, this has been a policy, a corporate policy for them. So now they're going to regale us with their wisdom about what you can do about loneliness. So let's take a look at this and we can be annoyed together. What is loneliness? All of us need meaningful relationships in our lives. So when we feel isolated or disconnected from others, it is natural to feel quite a quiet ache inside. That uncomfortable feeling is what experts call loneliness. I don't know why we have to enlist the experts here to describe loneliness, but Stephen Led is a governing body member, so describing rudimentary words is kind of just a favorite pastime. A little bit later, for some, loneliness comes and goes, but for others, it lingers, bringing feelings of deep emptiness and dejection. Loneliness can leave people feeling bored, angry, depressed, insecure, rejected, or unloved. Now, this is the classic, well, I've left Watchtower, now what? And I'll be honest with you, those first few months when you leave are pretty tough. There's a lot of time just spent with yourself, by yourself, thinking to yourself, and sometimes those conversations with yourself, that time with yourself, can turn very negative because we, as social creatures, I suppose we weren't really designed, we haven't evolved, whatever expression fits your fancy, use it. We don't seem to be very well adapted at being completely isolated from other people. Those social connections seem to be a quintessential part of the human experience. And so if one day you feel completely surrounded by this vast array, this worldwide brotherhood, and then you're just sitting in an apartment by yourself, drinking whiskey, sitting on the floor crying or playing Smash Brothers or Call of Duty, wondering, man, how am I going to get out of this weird deep depression hole? It can be very difficult. But again, this is a direct result of a policy from a real estate company in New York. This isn't, that's the hardest thing about that, is when you are in those times of loneliness, as I say, you feel dejected, you feel insecure, you feel unloved. It's so easy to internalize those things. You internalize it and think, well, there must be something wrong with me. Why don't I have any friends? You're bombarded with social media. People are having fun, going to parties, going to concerts, going out to eat, all this cool stuff. And you're sitting at home eating leftovers, watching reruns of Top Gear. Like, it's brutal. And so it's so easy to be able to internalize all of that and think that there is something wrong with you. And that is Wally advice number 1. I probably will never even remember to say number 2, but please don't internalize that. Understand that you are in that position. If that is you right now, you're in this position because of some guys in New York, and you can find yourself surrounded by people who care about you again, but it takes time. And if that time seems to be annoyingly long, just remember that's what it takes. It takes sometimes months and years to build up really close friendships with other people and to surround yourself with that love that everyone needs. So please, 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 if you take anything away from this video and you find yourself recently having left the organization, don't internalize the pain that you're going through. It is not your fault. This is because of some dudes. And that's it. So in answering the question of why people are lonely, Watchtower is self-reporting, because we can just point to some of these things and say, wow, they are the cause of this. For instance, you cannot see your friends or your family as often as you would like. Well, I'll raise you on that point there, Watchtower. What if you can't see them at all? What if you're like me and you show up to their house and they just don't answer? They like open the curtains, look you in the eyeballs, and you make that pupil contact, and they say, and they just close the curtains and walk away and go watch TV. It doesn't feel great. You've been left out of social activities because of your age, health, or other circumstances beyond your control. This is one that not a lot of people actually understand, because Watchtower doesn't they don't really address this that often, but something that I experienced in every single congregation that I ever attended was a group of, I would say, 5 to 10 elderly people that might have been in care facilities or something of that nature, and they were lonely. People wouldn't go and visit them. Elders would be like, yeah, well, we went and dropped off your latest publications or something, but they don't really stay for tea. It's something that I always felt kind of bad about, so I tried to make it a point. I wasn't perfect by any means at all, because I was Jehovah's Witness. What do you expect from me? But that was something that even as a witness, I kind of identified and was like, okay, I need to make sure I go out of my way to go and visit people that are sitting in like an elderly care facility home situation, and they're just like alone. They don't have any family in the area. A lot of times what will happen is someone's kids will have left the organization, and so they would have shunned them. Now they're older, they didn't really plan for the future, and they have to move closer to those kids. And it's a weird situation. Well, do you really want someone that has been shunning you for 30 years living in your house? Probably not. So you're going to an elderly home, and now that they're in that elderly home, they're away from their home congregation, so they don't have any like close ties. And now that they're in the new congregation, there's this expectation that they'll be surrounded by all of the love of the worldwide brotherhood, but it doesn't happen. And it was in every congregation I attended, like I said, 5 to 10 people that were just sitting around that had kids that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, family, and because of that, they don't have a lot of family in the area visiting them or anything like that. And they were extremely lonely. But again, this is another thing that Watchtower causes. If you hadn't shunned your kids in the first place, you wouldn't find yourself in this position that you are in. But again, that is not the fault of the person. They were just following the rules. And then they give a couple different factors. The first one being mental health. Feeling lonely can affect mental health, and mental health problems can lead to more feelings of loneliness. Loneliness can trigger or intensify feelings of anxiety and depression. In turn, depression can lead a person to perceive his life as lacking purpose, deepening his sense of isolation. Furthermore, anxiety and low self-esteem can make it difficult to reach out and connect with others. And past experiences, when you have been physically or emotionally abused in the past, the words can last a long time. As a result, they may find it hard to trust others and keep their distance. Now, this is so true. When you leave, it is so hard to open up and trust people again. You are trying to find yourself. You're unsure of yourself. You're trying to discover what this new version of you is going to be. What movies do I actually like? What music do I actually like? There's all of these different things that you're trying to figure out. And on top of that, you're having to deal with this past trauma. And as I say, it could have been physical abuse, very common in the organization. Could be emotional abuse, which is, I would say, dang near ubiquitous in the organization. So you are experiencing trauma on top of the isolation. So you get this compounded problem that's just a witch's cauldron of depression, and it can be super difficult. But again, Watchtower, shut up. Don't talk about these problems as if you're not the one causing them. So now we're getting to the end of the article where it's talking about how to succeed, and this just grinds my gears. Get to know others who have found real purpose in life. One of the best ways to satisfy your spiritual need is to find others who also want to be close to the Creator. To find such ones, you are welcome to visit any meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses. There you will meet many people who have alleviated their loneliness by learning about the Creator's purpose for humans. In doing so, they have made friends whom they consider family. Would you enjoy a life free from loneliness? Why not look into the Bible for yourself? It may help you to find a real purpose in your life, to connect with others who have done the same, and to cope with and perhaps even defeat loneliness. So, the purpose of the Awake magazine is to be a kind of conversation starter, essentially. When Jehovah's Witnesses are standing on street corners or they are knocking on people's doors or trying to get someone engaged and get them into a conversation. And so this is a topic that Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be using regularly: loneliness. I find it very irritating that if they do happen to find someone who is at a low point in their life, in the mud, as one might say, they could be attracted. Oh, here's some nice people. They look clean. They smell nice. Seem pretty normal. Sure, I could use some help with loneliness. And I think that they will draw people in like that. It's my opinion that most people that come into the organization that aren't born into it are at a very tough spot in their life and are experiencing a significant amount of loneliness. And so for Watchtower to either they know about this and they're just trying to be good at marketing, doing their thing. I guess if you are the Jehovah's Witnesses, you want to do the thing that works, right? So it does makes sense that they would be aware that, okay, this is a way that people get drawn into the organization. Let's capitalize on that. But I find it so frustrating to give people this false promise. And I know I've told this story before, but I'll just regurgitate it. And bird mama, baby bird feed it. I don't know. I can't get that expression to get in a straight line in my head. So we're just going to ignore it like it never happened. There was this woman that started studying. I don't believe she had any sort of connection, anything at all with Jehovah's Witnesses. And she was from originally born in a different country, but had recently, was American now, and then came to the area and didn't have a lot of friends. And one of her coworkers was a Jehovah's Witness, but he was a guy. And you can know how that goes. And so she starts studying and she makes rapid progress, and she's out in service a lot. And so we kind of become friends as well. And I was there to kind of see her progress. And then she gets baptized. And my memory's a little bit weedy, but I want to say within 6 months of her getting baptized, she was out the door. And I think this person always stands out as an example to me of just how fake everything is. if you are experiencing moving to a new city, oh, I got this coworker, they seem kind of all right. They're talking about this. Oh, wow, all these nice people. Now I'm just surrounded by this whole congregation. Everyone's so kind and caring and checking in on me and loving. As soon as you are baptized, everything changes. Everything shifts to a point where people don't treat you the same as they did when you were just studying. Because now that you are officially baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, now they're watching you. Now they want to make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. Now they want to get their little peepers on you to make sure that you're not messing up, that you're not stepping outside of the line. And man, when you experience this shift, again, from me and this person, we became a little bit closer, you could see it. You can see like, wow, yeah, a lot of the witnesses have like changed up on me. She would say this, like this guy that I thought was super cool, now he's like sexually harassing me at work now that I'm baptized. And this guy is a ministerial servant. Oh, and let me tell you about this other elder who just started like calling me and all out of the blue, a single guy. And now he's just like constantly trying to like see what's up. And now all these people that I thought were my friends and they're so nice, now they're like nitpicking every little thing that I do. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. And boom, never heard from her again. She just didn't show up to a meeting, and that was it. Asked the people, the elder and his wife that were studying, they're like, oh, we don't really want to talk about it. But I already knew that once the reality of being a Jehovah's Witness set in for her, she was gone. And this is why this is so frustrating. They're approaching people, they're actively campaigning, trying to recruit and bring people in. And this is all built on a lie. Oh, you're lonely? Let me show you a real family, real friends. But they are not real family. They are not real friends. It is all conditional, and they are annoyingly like vested in every little micro movement that you make. You feel like you are being watched all the time. And if you're a single woman and now that you're baptized, woo-wee, that's a tough spot to be in. You go to a convention and you're like, wow, I'm just been inundated with all of these slobbering goofballs just trying to see if they can get in the mix for getting inside my pants. This is just like crazy. I didn't realize the guys were so horny. I guess they were just keeping it in check, but now I'm baptized. Just like a dog. So the gate opened and they all just started running, slobbering all over the place. It was a disaster. Anyway, that's about all I have to say for this one. So thank you so much for sticking around. If you haven't like, if you haven't hype. And with all of that being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. Now go out there and have a good ass day.